Our distinguished speaker today is Kate Adams, the General Counsel and Senior Vice President of Legal and Global Security at Apple. Kate has had a remarkable career in the law. As the top lawyer at Apple, currently the world's most valuable company, she serves on the company's executive team and oversees all legal matters, including corporate governance, intellectual property, litigation and securities compliance, global security, and privacy. Kate joined Apple from Honeywell in 2017, where she worked for 14 years, most recently as Senior Vice President and General Counsel. Prior to joining Honeywell, she was a partner at the law firm Sidley Austin. Earlier in her career, she served as a law clerk for Supreme Court Justice Sandra O'Connor, trial attorney for the United States Department of Justice in the Environmental and Natural Resources Division, and law clerk for Stephen Breyer, who was then Chief Judge of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit. She earned a bachelor's degree in comparative literature from Brown University and a law degree from the University of Chicago Law School, where she serves on the Law School Council. We are thrilled to have this dynamic and accomplished lawyer address the class of 2023. Welcome to Kate Adams.
Sorry to say I have to pull these out for this. When I sat in that chair, I did not, but time has passed a little bit. Thank you so much, Dean Abrams, for introducing me, and for also doing so much for the law school. I can tell from the awards that have been given and all of the amazing people sitting here in front of me that the dean is really showing remarkable leadership in bringing the law school forward at an important time for all of us and for humanity and humankind. So I also want to thank all the family and friends who are really enthusiastic, that's great, well done, who come here for this, woo! And you all know without them you wouldn't be here. And I know if I hadn't had my family, which I will get to, I wouldn't be here either. Now, I do also want to especially thank and recognize the awesome law school class of 2023. Thank you for bringing us all together. So it's hard not to celebrate being here in Cameron Indoor, great venue, I must say, and seeing you all in your graduation regalia, and thankfully not in Blue Devil wigs and face paint. And it brings great joy to all of us to see you poised here to leave Duke and head down a new path, a path that will lead you to do your life's best work and hopefully to leave the world better than you found it. I'd also especially like to recognize the Duke Law School faculty who have devoted themselves over the past 3 years and more to give you, the class of 2023, a phenomenal education. For your sake, they maintained a rigorous academic environment, notwithstanding lockdowns, Zoom learning, and the many challenges and tragedies of the pandemic. And graduates, you too persevered in the face of these uncertainties and are now poised to become proud Juris Doctors, Masters of Laws, and this is an extraordinary accomplishment. Now, I can speak from experience that a Duke education provides you with enormous opportunities. Your education and experiences here position you so well to find purpose and meaning in your professional and personal lives. In that vein, I want to recognize my parents, who are here today, John and Patricia Adams. Along with our daughter, Harriet, who is about to graduate from Trinity tomorrow. Her friend and our friend Harrison, as well as my husband Duke, our son Woods, and our niece Violet. So I brought my supporters with me too. So thanks to them for being here. But the real reason I wanted to mention them is because both of my parents, John and Patricia, are Duke alumni. Dad was a graduate of the law school and my mother of the college. and I've had the joy and privilege of watching and learning from them my entire life. And so with the two of them here as my muses, I thought I'd share 3 lessons I have learned from these 2 Duke alums that you might find useful as you begin your post-Duke lives. The first lesson I learned from my parents is that you can feed a lot of people with a 4-pound chicken. And I'll get to what that means in a second. Our family comes from quite humble origins. Both my parents worked hard to pay their way through school. And when my 2 brothers and I were little, we lived in a 2-room walk-up apartment in Greenwich Village in New York City. The back room was our bedroom, and my parents slept on a pull-out couch in the living room. They could have chosen a more remunerative path, but early on, they both committed themselves to becoming advocates for the planet. In 1970, Dad, supported by my mother, became a founder of the Natural Resources Defense Council, the NRDC, one of the first nonprofits created to enforce the country's nascent environmental laws. The National Environmental Protection Act and the Clean Air Act had just been passed, and the Clean Water Act would soon follow. Sometimes, though, in those early days, we thought their life's work would crash before it got off the ground. The NRDC's opponents held many levers of power, and it would be a great understatement to say that not everyone agreed with these young environmentalists' radical ideas. At one point, NRDC's 501c3 status was revoked. The organization would have been doomed without the generosity and skill of a corporate tax attorney who, pro bono, brought a groundbreaking legal case that restored NRDC's ability to receive tax-deductible donations. But what really set the organization, and indeed the movement on its path, was the generosity and openness my parents showed to any and all comers. My parents' door was always open, and I mean that quite literally. Weeknights, groups of enthusiastic young lawyers, scientists, and advocates would gather at our apartment or meet for heated conversation at the local pizza joint. Weekends, unexpected guests would show up at the door, invited by my dad at some forgotten earlier moment, only to be warmly welcomed, handed some cheap red wine, and drawn into the fray. And that's where I come to the chicken part. You know, chicken is a pretty cheap protein, and Mom often had it in the fridge. Many was the night she'd roast up a small 4-pound chicken with some potatoes and feed it to us kids, along with the half dozen or so other people hanging around trying to save the planet. Her gifts of chicken and potatoes were gratefully accepted. And while you might leave our home inspired, excited, or slightly overwhelmed, you never left it hungry. Even when we did not have a lot to give, we gave what we had. And that example of generosity and community has always stayed with me. Because sometimes, in our toughest moments, it can feel like what we have to give is not enough, that we can't offer something of value, that our ideas are unworthy or our actions insufficient, our poultry too paltry. But my parents taught me, whatever you have to give, wherever you are in life, is enough. Whether it's hospitality, pro bono legal services, or chicken dinner, your generosity of spirit will be appreciated and may even be inspirational. The second lesson I learned from my parents is not to shun the road less traveled. The opportunity to find purpose and meaning may be hiding in unexpected places. I was just finishing the clerkship I'd always dreamed of with Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. I knew to expect a brilliant legal mind, but it's her compassion and wisdom that left the deepest impression on me. But after that experience, I had to ask myself what was next. It turns out the answer was my rebellious phase. Putting aside the usual teenage shenanigans, which I enjoyed, my rebellion occurred well into my 20s. To the dismay of many in the environmental movement, after my second clerkship, I broke ranks. Instead of joining the mission, I went to a New York law firm. and from there to a company called Honeywell. When I joined Honeywell as its head of litigation, the company was in dire straits. It had 2 failed mergers, accounting issues, and, of all things, an enormous Superfund liability, the largest of any corporation in America. The company had a terrible reputation as a notorious polluter. So terrible, in fact, that a local politician once returned a Honeywell political contribution. That's right, the politician gave the money back to the company. Around that time, an environmentalist colleague of my parents asked me, "So, when are you coming back from the dark side?" You might quite reasonably ask why you took that job. It was certainly not the obvious choice. But interestingly, I found that I loved working in business and that I had a knack for solving strategically complex problems. And I thought I might be able to influence how at least one company tackled its environmental responsibilities. To my parents' credit, they never once criticized my decision. Rather than demeaning the work I was doing, they always told me how proud they were that I was a woman in business and the path I'd chosen would have its own rewards. And they were right. As it turns out, you can find professional meaning in unexpected places. The single biggest legal issue facing Honeywell at the time was responsibility for the cleanup of Onondaga Lake, a very large lake in upstate New York. It had been fouled by years of industrial pollution of the worst sort: PCBs, mercury, dioxins, lead, cadmium, raw sewage, you name it. As a result of many corporate mergers and acquisitions, Honeywell was the sole company left to pay the bill to restore the lake. We could have taken the old school method of fight, 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 fight some more, put off the day of reckoning, hope you never have to pay for it. But we decided on a different approach, one based on sound science, community and stakeholder relationships, candor with our regulators, and above all, a commitment to restoring the lake as a swimmable, fishable, drinkable water body. After a decade and a half of hard work, we achieved that goal. Today, Onondaga Lake teems with fish and bird life. Eagles and osprey soar along its shores. Rowers and swimmers enjoy its waters. That experience taught me that wherever you may find yourself, the potential to make a difference is always present. So, as you begin your careers, always remember, you can find incredibly rewarding experiences in the most unlikely of places. Now, finally, there is one last lesson I would like to share with you before the degrees are awarded. At one point, I remember a conversation with my mother when I was feeling frustrated with where my career was. I felt I'd been doing the same thing for a long time in the same place, and I couldn't see where I was going. I felt stymied about next steps and was constantly agitating about the future. After listening to me in her special mom way, she said to me, Kate, don't wish your life away. Live it now. I can't say I fully appreciated the depth of what she said right then. It has taken me many years to appreciate the significance of now. But now is an amazing place. It is full of immediate possibilities if you are open to them. That risky decision to join a troubled company at a difficult time, to take the opportunity that moment presented, was the crucial step that gave me the legal and management experience to eventually go to Apple. And the commitment to making a difference in the moment where I found myself was one of the reasons Apple, a company that's in the business of making tomorrow's possibilities real today, hired me to be the general counsel. Don't get me wrong, planning for the future is never a bad idea, but inevitably you will learn as much from the detours as the destination. And that means the most important decision you can make is to capture the possibilities of this moment. There are infinite ways to broaden your experience by making the circle of options around you wider, whether it's taking a pro bono case, joining the board of a worthy organization, asking to work on a new matter that interests you, or becoming involved in your local government. Our journey as professionals is a marathon, not a sprint. So savor each moment and seize today's opportunity to enrich your lives and the lives of those around you. I think that's a worthy mission for any life, and I never would have found it without the example my parents set for me. So I'm grateful for this chance to pass along their wisdom about generosity of spirit, the courage to take risks, and about commitment to making each moment count. I hope that as you chart your path, these lessons are helpful to you as they have been for me. I'm honored to share this day with you, and I wish you a future full of learning, full of joy, and full of purpose. Congratulations.
Thank you, Kate, for your uplifting words and your leadership in the legal profession.